After recent terror attacks in Europe, the debate intensifies over how to further empower authorities to track down terrorists without compromising civil liberties. Hello and welcome to People First, the EPP Group's monthly program on issues with impact on people like you. Joining us to answer some of your questions is Monica Hohlmeier. You are a member of the committee here in the European Parliament for Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, and a member of the EPP Group. Madam Hohlmeier, if I may ask you to start with, you grew up during a time when there were terror attacks in Germany. Yes. Your father was Interior Minister and Defense Minister. How was it for someone like you to grow up in that situation?
Let's say it was another life. It was not a normal life because we always had 3 policemen following us in the school, everywhere. We were not allowed to go by bicycle to the school, as every normal child is doing it. We had to go by a specialized secured car, by secured ways, and so I have a deep feeling for this issue of terrorism.
So Europe has indeed been shaken repeatedly by terrorism. How is the EU now dealing with this situation now? Let's take a look at our report before we go to our viewer questions.
The deadly terror attacks in France and the foiled plot in Belgium came at a time Europe is debating what new tools to give investigators. Some officials and the airline industry have been pressing for a Europe-wide system to track air travelers. Known as PNR, or Passenger Name Records, the effort to create a common data bank across Europe was defeated in the European Parliament in 2013. A related issue is data retention. How should the data be used? How long and by whom? The PNR proposal would store that data over 5 years and strictly control the sharing of data with non-EU countries. The gunman in the deadly attack on the Jewish Museum in Brussels in 2014 slipped into the EU via Frankfurt Airport, as Germany forbids data retention. With telephone surveillance, not all member states allow it either, though phone taps helped Belgian authorities track down the suspects in planned terror attacks. The EPP Group is also calling for a European version of the U.S. Terror Finance Tracking Program, or TFTP, to shut down the money going to terrorists. And border controls stand to be toughened under a so-called smart borders system. Proposed by the European Commission last year, it's in the test phase.
So we've talked to some people on the street, and their questions really do deal with how people are affected or could be affected by these measures. Let's look at our first question that has to do with sort of a general idea about how people are affected.
Hello, I'm Antoine. I'm from Brussels, and I just want to ask how this is going to affect my daily life on the internet.
So what about all this telecom surveillance? We want to boost that up, ramp it up. Is this more Big Brother or what?
No, Big Brother is not allowed and won't be allowed in future, because normally if you have a suspected person, you need a judge to decide that you can survey somebody, really, the telephone connections, the IT content that the person has seen. But our problem at the moment is that we don't have any obligation for the private companies. For example, in Germany, this is the situation that they have to do something like a data retention. The normal internet user will have will profit from our proposal of data protection, because there's a data protection proposal from the Commission. We try to find a solution together with the Council, and there the privacy is much more protected, and we as Parliament try to give more rights to a private person against the big lock-in giants, because they don't respect the clients so much.
Well, let's take a look at our next question, which has very much to do with that.
My name is Ellen, I'm from Belgium, and how will you protect my data?
Well, essentially, yes, some people are fighting for the right to be forgotten, and now we're talking about, in this proposal, to retain data for 10 years. Why is that?
So first, the issue is that data protection and privacy must be respected. So fundamental rights must be respected. The issue is that, for example, law enforcement is not allowed to enter into every privacy. That is not allowed, only for suspects. And there's a certain type of new technology. So normal data is absolutely protected. Nobody is interested. The problem is not law enforcement. The problem sometimes is the profiling of private companies.
For advertising. but this does make some people uncomfortable. Here's a Swiss gentleman who's uncomfortable at all that data crunching.
Hello, my name is Maurice Schoenberg. I'm from Switzerland, and I wonder whether it's possible to track down people. Personally, I don't think that it is, but some people would like to have a government that controls everything.
Well, he flew to get here. Now you would think that he would favor PNR to make sure the guy sitting next to him is safe. But anyway, he's got two minds obviously about this, like a lot of Europeans.
But PNR or something like data retention is not a mass surveillance. If you really want to look inside all the private content of IT, of bank account or something like this, you need to have a decision of a judge, or there must be a danger for society. If there is not a clear situation, then you are not allowed to go into the whole privacy.
Well, and here's another aspect of freedom is freedom of movement, and a lot of people are putting in question Schengen. Here's a question on that.
Ich heiße Heidi Mudrak, bin aus Wien und stelle jetzt die Frage, warum es nicht möglich wäre, auch zeitweise das Schengen-Abkommen wieder einzusetzen. Und was hindert die Diplomaten daran, dieses einzuführen? Ob sie nur Angst haben, dass sie die Stimmen der Bevölkerung und ihres Landes verlieren?
So it is a very complicated question, because to what extent do you try to support Schengen, but at the risk perhaps of losing votes at home by those who are very, very worried about Schengen perhaps compromising their security?
So I think the freedom of movement is one of the very important goods that or values that we have in this European Union and in the Schengen area. There is one proposal about the external borders of the Schengen area, because if, for example, terrorists are entering, if high-risk individuals are entering, if drug traffickers, human traffickers are entering, for this reason there will be a proposal to have controls at the external borders for EU citizens, but not inside, because it's not necessary to do this check 3 or 4 times.
Right.
It's necessary to do it once at the external borders of the Schengen area. And then we need to have a possibility to see how terrorists or high-risk individuals move. This is not a border issue.
Right.
This is not a border issue. This is an issue where the ministers of interior have decided, have agreed on a data exchange that must be much better, because sometimes, for example, the list of high-risk individuals in Belgium is different to the German ones.
And then one other aspect is of this package that the EPP Group is proposing, with the support of others as well, is the idea of trying to prevent youth from radicalizing.
That's true.
And boosting efforts in the prisons, and also trying to encourage some sort of tolerance in the schools.
Yes.
How concretely do you want to do that?
First, we can create guidelines of best practices, because there are already good examples in the European Union that work, and we hope that we can exchange this with very good guidelines. The second thing is to give an initiative or incentives for an IT program as de-radicalisation, to show, especially with the methods of internet, that radicalisation is a misuse of young people for very bad ideas and for their detriment. So we can do a lot for de-radicalisation, and in prisons it's important that hate preachers or terrorists don't have the possibility to speak to young people in prison.
So
to
how do you do that?
radicalize
You separate them, or what do you
The normal instrument is really to isolate those extreme terrorists from others, and in the prisons you have to give young prisoners the possibility to learn something, to be educated therein, to
Exactly, it has to have some sort of positive support there. Yeah.
So yes, to
right.
have a positive support
Right.
for those who give us a chance to help them.
Well, all these efforts are going to require long-term efforts.
Yes,
and
that's true.
We'll have to see how that pans out. But of course, the first step is getting the package approved. So
That's
we'll see
true.
how that goes.
Thank you so much.
Madam Holmeier, thank you very much. That's all the time we've got for now. On People First, find out more about the activities of the largest political force in Parliament by checking eppgroup.eu. Until next time, thanks for watching.